Spain are the world champions. They've won the World Cup final 1-0 after extra time, just like they did 16 years ago against the 10 men. Congratulations to them. I'm so pleased they won that final. I think I speak for many people here, many neutrals yesterday, in saying that I'm very pleased in the fact that Spain have won this tournament now, beating Argentina in the final. And you know, even more so after the way Argentina went about the entire game yesterday, the way they behaved throughout the entire game, particularly at the end. We'll come to all of that, but yeah, congratulations to Spain. They were fantastic the whole way through this tournament, and well, they got it done yesterday as well. They have been unbelievable, and they've had what I think is so exciting about this Spain team is so many of them still so young, so many years ahead of them still. Yamal, a World Cup winner and a Euro winner, only 19 years of age, and you think, they now have gone like they did before again. Euros, World Cup back to back. You know, when they're their golden generation before, they had that reign of dominance, and they're doing this again. They're breaking all sorts of records. Spain apparently as well. They're the only national team in history, I think, where the women's team and the men's team have both held the World Cup at the same time. So these are some. They really have established themselves now. Spain on the sort of the global stage as the top footballing nation. They've added the second World Cup to their collection, and I'm really pleased that they won it yesterday. It was the right team won. There is no question about that, and everyone's saying it has to be said. Football was the real winner yesterday, because yesterday only one team shown up to try and win the game. Only one team actually played. Only one team tried to actually go and only one team tried to actually go and win the game, and that was Spain. So and they're such a good side to watch as well. The way they move the ball so well, the way they build up the attacks. They're such a good team to watch. They move the ball so fast. They move the ball so well with just so much precision, and that's the way they've gone through this entire tournament. Just professional and precisional. They've just been unbelievable, and I think they deserve so much credit. I really do. If you look at that, they had the much harder run to the final as well. It's got to be said, much more convincing on the run to the final as well. It's got to be said. Argentina certainly had luck on theirs. They did, credit where credit's due. They fought hard, got back in games, but found their way back when they looked down and out. But they're far from convincing, and much was made of certain decisions that went their way as well on the road to the final. Spain, very, very convincing the whole way through. After that first game, won every match. Only conceded one goal in the entire tournament as well. In an the biggest in an extended tournament as well, bigger tournament we've seen in recent years as well. So, unbelievable record that. We've only conceded one goal the whole way through, so it shows how good they are defensively as well. And there's no shortage of goals in their team as well. Attackers play with so much pace, so much speed. It's such a hard team to play against. Teams just can't get the ball off them. When they do get the ball off of them, there's nowhere to go. They're too worn out from trying to chase the game. They're too, and they're just too many. Everyone does their job in that Spain team. I think that's what one of the key things is, really. Everyone in the team does their job, and they do it to a top level. And I think everyone knows the role, everyone knows the job, and they do it so well. And I think that's one of their biggest strengths. They play as a team so well, and I think they play proper football as well. There's nothing, they show up and win games being the better team, and they sometimes they win late, because they are able to just keep the ball and wear the opposition out, as I've said, and they like to, they're such a good team, as I've said, and worthy world champions. Defensively, they are the best at that. They defend by keeping possession. That's sort of how they defend. You can't get the ball off them, so you can't form any rhythm. You can't form any sustained period of dominance in the game. And if you look at the teams they've beaten on the way to the final, knocking out Belgium and Portugal, then knocking out France and completely bossed the semi-final against France. They were better in every aspect convincingly, and made the final without any doubt in the end. Coming into the final, definitely the favourite, definitely most people's favourite, and I think the team that a lot of people wanted to see win for many reasons, it has to be said. And let's talk about the game itself now, because it wasn't the greatest of finals, it has to be said. It wasn't a great game. It wasn't a World Cup final will be remembered as one of the great ones. You know, even more so after what we had last time out when Argentina did win it, which was arguably the greatest ever World Cup final, with a 3-3 all the way that went all the way. But to be honest, the game itself was a poor game. It really was. It didn't have a lot. It wasn't a game that will be remembered. A World Cup final will be remembered for the football that was played, and you know, it was certainly wasn't a great match, but the right team won. So I think it had the ending that the game had the ending that it deserved. The tournament had the winner it deserved as well. But in terms of the match, first things are starting 11. Spain's 11 throughout the tournament, really. I know they've had a few injuries, a few that have had to come in and out for reason. Rodri at times. I know they've had obviously a few injuries overall, but for the majority of the tournament, the 11's picked itself. Spain, you know, have started with the same 11. You know how they're going to set up. You know what it's going to look like. Argentina chopped and changed a bit, but they do go with the same centre-back partnership that they went for against England with Martinez and Romero yesterday. And Gonzalez keeps his place ahead of Paredes in the midfield, which is no wonder given the fact that he completely changed the game against England. Was fantastic in that game, really good off the bench. And this was his first ever World Cup start as well. It's a big moment for him, and of course Messi and Alvarez. They played with the 4-4-2 again, Argentina, or at least resembled that. And they, of course, started with Messi and Alvarez up top. Now, a lot of the talk in the build-up was about Messi. That was what people were sort of hanging their hat on about Argentina. Everyone that made the case for Argentina is always about Messi, because everyone was saying about everything I've said about Spain on the build-up was everyone was saying on the build-up. Everything that I've said in this video about Spain, everyone was saying before the game. That's why they're winning it. So I think that's why they was the favourites to win this. But a lot of people saying how Argentina could win could be Lionel Messi. The outstanding moments of brilliance we've seen throughout the tournament. Every game he has had something positive to do. He's creating more chances, more goal scoring opportunities than anyone in the tournament. He's scored in most games. Was, you know, had a chance still being top scorer as well. Going into yesterday, 8 goals. A lot of people was expecting some individual moments just because no team's been properly able to deal with him so far in this tournament. And you know, he's the hardest player to try and man mark. He's the hardest player to try and take out of the game. And I think because of that, a lot of people were saying that could be the one thing Spain find hard to cope with, keeping Messi quiet. That could be the one thing that it makes a difference. But first 20 minutes of the game, overall, the game early on, actually, in the early periods, I thought had a nice tempo to it. I thought both teams had a couple of counter attacks. Spain, up until that first hydration break, so 25 minutes or so, certainly dominated the game. They're certainly the team on top. They're certainly the team that was having most of the chances. They was creating some decent chances, getting into some decent areas, moving the ball really well, really quickly, really nicely. After the first hydration break, though, I think Argentina started to get a bit of a foothold in the game. Spain certainly going in at a break, the dominant side. Argentina not actually having an actual shot, but getting into some areas. Finished the half a bit better than they started. More so, a lot more so, but Spain, you know, it felt a bit like the England game. England that up until we sort of went in front was on top, and then we just completely self-destruct. And it felt a bit like that, and that was the worry, because you give Argentina any sort of look in, they seem to get rhythm going, and they seem to be able to have these periods where, you know, they have these periods, 3 goals in 15 minutes, 2 goals in 7 minutes. They have these periods that once they get one, they can the crowd. They always have a big crowd as well. They always outnumber everyone. They outnumbered the support yesterday, and you think, you know, as soon as the crowd gets going, that can really play a part as well. And if you like England, that we already seem to lose all confidence after going 1-0 up. If you sit slightly too deep, Egypt made the same mistake as well. You can just the game can completely get taken away from you. So even in a game like this, the longer it goes on, with it being 0-0, with Argentina just hanging on and defending, there's always a risk of one of these counter-attacks, and always a risk of an individual moment of brilliance from Messi, because the fact he was quiet was almost sort of playing into an Enzo as well. The fact they were quiet, he was thinking, you never know, maybe. But I think the theme was very much set early on from Argentina, which there was a lot of fouls happening early on, and there was a brief moment in that first half. In the end, they dealt with it so well, but there was a brief moment in the first half where I was worried for Spain. I'm thinking, because they was doing a few fouls back themselves, and you know, there was always moments like this in every game I've seen with Argentina so far, with Egypt, with England. You think, are they going to get sort of dragged into this a bit? Because Argentina, they seem to almost want the fight. and they want the game to become scrappy and stop-start at times, particularly yesterday against a team like Spain. They wanted to stop them playing, pretty much. They wanted to stop. They wanted the game. They're doing all these fouls to try and slow the game down, to try and stop Spain playing their football, and to try and basically drag the game as far as possible. And I think, quite early on, I very much think the game plan was, okay, let's just try and get it to penalties, because Spain have lost 4 of the last 5 shootouts. I think they've lost 4 or 5 they've played in the World Cup as well. They're not good from penalties. Argentina are excellent from penalties, and they've, in the last, every tournament they've won previously, they've won a penalty shootout in. They've 2 Copa Americas on the bounce and the World Cup between them. They've won penalty shootouts, I believe, in all those, or definitely in 2 of those tournaments they did. And that was, and they won the World Cup final on penalties as well. They're always good from penalties historically, particularly this team as well. So that's what I think they would have wanted. And early on, it certainly looked like, are they just trying to get this to penalties? They're playing for penalties. They're playing to not lose. And you would think that after seeing what happened, what they did to England when England played too negative, they wouldn't make the same mistake, but they did. They were so negative, and it has to be said. I think do what you have to do to win the game. I think within the rules, I think you're going to defend. Understand, you do what it takes to win. But I think I think there's a place for the dark arts in football. I think there's a place for trying to bend the rules a little bit, but there's certainly a line, and Argentina went way past that yesterday. And I think the more and more the game went on, the more and more these fouls become more aggressive and more frequent and more obvious. And I think there was quite a few moments where I think there could have been sending offs, and there's quite a few moments that I think they maybe sort of got away with, and I think it was obvious what they were trying to do, and it was bad, really. It was anti-football, I think many would call it. And in that second half, Spain continued to dominate. They certainly did. And when Torres comes on, he's certainly getting into some good positions. And we see Nico Williams comes on as well. Of course, he's featured in this tournament, but he did come into the tournament with an injury, so he did eventually get on yesterday. And they're trying to make it happen, Spain, but Argentina's so negative. They're sitting so deep in the 90 minutes. The only team ever in the World Cup finals to not have a shot. They didn't have a shot, and Spain had about 65 to 70% possession. They were just complete dominance, and it was a worry in a way, because you're thinking, Argentina, this could completely play into their hands. All they need is one chance. All Messi needs is one chance. You're thinking, and it wouldn't be the right winner. Spain were the way better side. They were the team trying to play. Argentina were just trying to stop the game pretty much from happening, and from properly being able to be played properly. And they was dirty, as we said. And Spain having so many good chances, and there was just going. I remember the chance. I remember quite late on, actually. I remember Rodri really skying one, and I remember just getting into so many good areas, but it just not quite falling for him. A lot of chances. Martinez making a few big saves, which was, then he did make some towards the end of the 90s. He did start to make some really big saves, and you're thinking, this is Spain. They need to take one of these chances before they regret the missed chances. And the game goes beyond the 90, of course. Nothing to separate them at the end of the 90 minutes, but Spain massively on top. The stats, you see the stats I said previously going into that extra time. It was obvious what team was surely the favourite going for extra time, but the worry was, I think, the frustration and almost the anxiety started to build for Spain a bit in that first half of extra time. The goal wasn't coming, still dominating, still no shots for Argentina, and even more so, just Argentina sitting so deep, just defending. This point, so obviously just trying to get the game to penalties. And Messi's a player that can't, unless he gets the service and they are able to play to him almost, he doesn't seem to do anything off the ball. Certainly this being Messi's last game yesterday, he's the greatest of all time, probably. So you have to sort of that was for that reason as well. As his last ever game yesterday as well. And he didn't really have much to say. He didn't really get much time on the ball or anything. But his last ever game, so certainly at the time to sort of say to him, just to sort of almost pay tribute to him almost. But at the end of the game yesterday, it being his last moments. And he sort of, you see at the end of the game, he's sort of quiet moment on his own, where the rest of his team had, the majority of them behaving in a really bad way. And of course, we have to talk about Enzo sending off right at the end of the game as well. Shortly after this first booking, he sends Camarabasse absolutely flying. They both run for the challenge, but Enzo really sticks his knee in, and it's a really, really bad challenge. And he protests and protests for ages, but eventually, of course, has to go off. In that extra time, Spain on top for so long. Williams just seems to have put Spain in the lead, go right on the half-time period of the extra time. But the goal is bizarrely ruled out. I don't really see why. I don't really know what it was. Initially I thought offside, but then they were saying it could have been there was two potential challenges. There was one on the defender, then one on Martinez, and I think it was, and they, for one of them, they ruled it out for a foul. Really, really weird. I didn't really see anything wrong with it. But what didn't take long though. Finally in that second period of extra time, Spain do take the lead, and it's Ferran Torres. Again, Pedro Porro been fantastic this tournament. Ball comes in from him, and then Williams is able to get it in. Williams certainly had an impact off the bench yesterday, and Williams able to get it in for Torres, and it's a good finish from Torres. Sometimes, he's had a lot of doubters. Quite often he's not been great in front of goal, but what a moment for him. He was the one who ultimately won the World Cup for Spain with that, what was a really good finish in extra time, and you can see the relief for Spain really by that point, because for so long it felt like the goal was coming, but it just wasn't. It just didn't, and yeah, they would have been so relieved, and I think a lot of people would have been so relieved when that went in. The way Argentina are playing at this point, the Argentina by this point had taken majority of the attacking threat off, Alvarez off, no outlet, and this point, that's what I mean, they're just playing for penalties, and because similar to what England did, had no answer, because now they played so deep, they had no way out, no way to really try and get back into the game. That was it really. They'd lost by this point. And before that, it almost looked like Spain were the more nervous team. Their supporters looked nervous. It was Argentina whose supporters were singing, sounded confident going into that final period, because it was going how they wanted to at that point. But it only needed one clinical moment from Spain to completely change that, and that's what happened. Because by that point, Spain was so just sheer domination of the whole game really. And going into that final period of the game, of course, Torres does have his goal chalked off as well. But Argentina eventually have a couple of shots off target, win a couple of corners. It's a little bit nervy at the end, as you'd expect, but never really in any doubt for Spain. They'll be able to see it out after going 1-0 up, especially against a team that approached the game like that. Might as well have not played. Just literally just 11 men behind the ball for 120 minutes to try and get the game's penalties, and it didn't work. So glad to see Spain do it. Glad they won. Of course, as well, 3 shots for the entire game off target for Argentina to Spain's 20 odd, and almost like about 70% of the ball. It was just so obvious who the right winner was yesterday. And the scenes at full time, Argentina really have made a disgrace of themselves here, and they really have hurt this is a great team that's had so much success over recent years, but they really have hurt their legacy here. I think it's fair to say they've put a real sort of stain on themselves, that the people calling for serious sanctions from now. We have Paredes punching one of the Spanish players in the face. I think there was Montiel also did as well, and then their subs attacking Spain subs and just not even trying to almost not even let them celebrate. Basically, just it was Argentina who had a team that was breaking the rules the whole game yesterday, and then they started attacking Spain seemingly because they didn't like the fact that they had won. It's just an absolute ridiculous scenes. And yeah, in the end, Spain allowed to go and celebrate, and then Argentina, of course, didn't even turned away when Spain celebrated as well. They're the worst losers I've ever seen, I have to say, and for that reason, so glad to see Spain do it. And so many people are saying this. I'm not just saying this because they knocked England out. It's not just because of that, and it does make it really annoying. It does, I think, further shows that England, of course, Argentina got the subs right in that game, stepped up in key moments. But I think it does show you how much England could have, how much England threw it away there, really, and that because I honestly believe we could have won this tournament. So gutted in that regard, but certainly pleased for Spain. I did pick them out as the winners before the tournament, actually, and as the tournament's gone on, they've proved themselves more and more, and they've grew into the tournament as well, and they have been unbelievable throughout this entire tournament. So fair play to them. The right team won yesterday. Football won yesterday in the end. No one wants to see a team play like that in a World Cup final. To be honest, we'll call it what it is, try and cheat their way to victory. Argentina, in many tournaments, previous tournaments, in games in this tournament, to be fair, deserve credit, but yesterday they was a disgrace, to put it quite frank, there was no difference between what they did yesterday and what Paraguay tried to do against France earlier on in the tournament. So I think whoever they are, they deserve the same level of criticism. But yeah, final score in the end, 1-0 to Spain after extra time. 2 times world champions now. Congratulations to them, and they, like I say, deserved it in the end. Not a great final, but a great team won it in the end.